There are many good sets of instructions on the internet showing you how to replace the shift pins. This video is to show you some of the problems I had and how I overcame them. The first to fourth detents were easy, just follow the instructions, you won't have a problem. The reverse gear detent is above the fifth gear detent.
Reverse and fifth gear detents. These are held in with a circlip. That position. Remove the circlip. Piece of plastic. I used a drill to go through the plastic and then pop it out. And this has a spring inside it.
The fifth gear detent with the spring installed but the cover removed. The detent pin should be free to move in the sleeve bearing, but it'll be stiff because that's what causes the symptoms. And in extreme cases it may even be seized. In my gearbox, the detent pin was just stiff to move. I tried to make it easier to remove by moving it backwards and forwards using a drift to move it in and the gear lever action to move it out.
If you use the reverse end of this tool and chap it in the way. Hear how the noise changes? That means you're up against the fifth gear. With a tool, flick it to the right. Get it up against the pressure point and then flick it to the right.
After doing that several times, the pin hopefully will be freer. Now you can try and remove the pin. The pin has a hole at the back of it. I've made this tool from some welding wire. You need to be careful if you're going to use a similar tool. You don't want the tip to break off and fall into the gearbox. You want to manipulate the tool into the hole at the back of the detent pin and then using a gradual pressure pull on the detent pin. Do not try and jerk the pin out because that may snap the wire. I couldn't remove the detent using the tool, so I modified it to fit it onto a slide hammer. I've used a small file to secure the wire into the hole at the back of the detent pin, and using very gentle taps on the slide hammer I was able to remove the pin. Do not, under any circumstances, put the new detent pin into the old bearing. No matter how clean the old bearing looks, the old bearing must be slightly smaller diameter than the new bearing, because the new detent pin, when I put it in, it stuck absolutely rock solid in the gearbox. It wasn't moving. To make matters even worse, the hole in the new detent pin is smaller than the hole in the old detent pin, so the welding wire trick didn't work, as the welding wire wouldn't go through the hole with the hook on the end. I found the best tool to use is a blind bearing puller. I had to go out and specially buy one. They cost £70. Insert the bearing puller into the detent pin, secure it very tightly, then slide the hammer back gently. Don't slide it back with big bangs, slide it back gently and the detent pin will come out.
The tool to use for removing the bearing is a sharpened screwdriver down the edge. Don't attempt doing it with just an ordinary screwdriver. You have to sharpen it to a fine edge.
That's the shift pins done now. The only additional problem I had was putting the fifth gear cap in. It was very tight. I had to put the gearbox on its side to get enough weight on it to put the circlip in. and I've used Hylamar to fully seal the caps. Something I forgot to mention was when you're washing the top of the gearbox before you're doing any work, watch out for this breather hole. If you get any water down there, you need to change the oil.
I've just replaced the seal in the back of the gearbox. That was weeping a little bit. There's no evidence of leaking around either the rear or the front main seals. This is the gear shift mechanism in the neutral position. Using finger pressure alone previously, you could move it across into fifth. The way the gearbox works, or the way the gear change works, if you imagine going for third, there's a bar that goes on here that holds it solid, and you're moving the lower arm. So when you go for third, you're pulling this back. Fourth, pushing it forward. So third, fourth, that is the gear in the natural position. So when you go for first, you're moving the gear across to the left and then forward. So it's going to be across to the left and then backwards. So across to the left, backwards for first, keeping it with a little bit of pressure across to the left, forwards for second, back to neutral. So neutral, first, second, third, fourth, small pressure to overcome, fifth. To get reverse, it takes a lot of pressure. I have to extend this lever right out here to get reverse. So overcome the spring, trying to keep hold, and it's almost impossible to do. Oh, no, I can't do it. Can't do it with one hand. But with two hands you can do it. It would be across and back.